Lag Ba'omer, Tovshin Chavtes, Lag Ba'omer was on a Tuesday then. The Rebbe went to the Eil, and after he came back from the Eil, it was pretty late already. The Rebbe dav mincha. He dav mincha by his place, which was by the door, where the clock is, by that door. That's where the Rebbe always dav mincha ma'ariv. So that's where the Rebbe dav mincha. Now, usually after mincha, the Rebbe would open the door. He was standing next to the door. The door was closed. He would open the door and walk out and walk back to his room. Now, on Lag Ba'omer, after the mincha, which he came after back to the Eil, instead of turning around and walking through the door, the Rebbe started walking towards the door in Kodesh, that way. Now, we didn't know what's happening. Now, we thought that probably what the Rebbe wants, he wants to go out to his room. Instead of that way, he wanted to go around here through the Chodesh Sheni. Because we know there were different times that the Rebbe would walk out differently. The weekdays, the Rebbe davened by the door to the hallway, and then he would walk out from that door. Friday mincha, the Rebbe would daven on the other side. He would daven next to the door of the Chodesh Sheni, and after davening, he would walk out through the Chodesh Sheni, walk through the hallway, and come to his room. Shabbos afternoon, he also davened the same place. His shtender and his table was next to Chodesh Sheni, but when he went out to his room, he would go through the shul rather than going around. I don't know the reason for why this time like that, this time like that. So here, when we saw Lag Ba'omer, the Rebbe is trying to go this way, so we thought, Mistama, what the Rebbe is trying to do, he's trying to walk out this way for whatever reason the Rebbe had. It was crowded, big crowd. Those times in Lefierach, a regular day, they were crowded, but the Rebbe started walking, so he made place, and the Rebbe is walking. I was standing right under the window between the shul and the Chodesh Sheni. I was the second one. Reb Shmuel stood the first one by the end of the table by the door. I was right next to him. That's where I always used to daven. So I was right next to him. And the Rebbe, he was walking. Everyone made place for the Rebbe to walk through the door, going into Chodesh Sheni, thinking that he's going that way. Reb Shmuel was standing by that end of the table. So when he saw the Rebbe coming, he moved away. He moved towards the wall. I moved more into the table and making place for the Rebbe to go through the door into Chodesh Sheni and to go out. Lopeil, instead of doing that, the Rebbe didn't go out to Chodesh Sheni. The Rebbe turned into by the bench, between the bench and the table where I was standing. He moved in, so the Shmuel was on the one side. I was standing right on the other side. The Rebbe moved in, so obviously I moved over, and the Rebbe sat down on the bench. Didn't know what's happening. The Rebbe sat down on the bench. Right away we saw the Rebbe took out his tichel and put it on and started saying a maimer. Started saying the maimer, Hina Matevim Anoim Shevasachem Gam Yochad. The pushing started, this terribly pushing, and I was standing right there, and I saw that the table is being pushed towards the Rebbe, and chas v'sholem, it could touch the Rebbe's feet. So I turned around to stand sideways, so I should make space between the bench and the table. The pushing was hard. It was very hard to stand that way, but that's where I stood. And the Rebbe started the maimer. After a minute into the maimer, the crowd, the pushing was great. It was very much, so the noise was there. So the Rebbe stopped in the middle of the maimer. The Rebbe stopped. That if we're not going to stop, if it's not going to make a seder, then he's going to not continue the maimer. So people tried, but it's sometimes impossible. There's so many people pushing, and people started running. People who from downstairs just heard about it, started running in, started pushing more. So it was very hard, but it became a little bit better. And the Rebbe continued the maimer, and when he finished the maimer, he got up and he walked out. And I think he went through the Chodesh Sheni side and he went to his room. But this was something special that the Rebbe said a maimer, and it was sitting on the bench, similar to the Rosh Chodesh Nisan maimer, which was also on the bench, sitting not on his chair, but it was in a different place. That maimer was by the window, closer to the wall of the Maskirus, on the side of the window. That's where he was sitting at that bench. This time it was the bench by the wall next to Chodesh Sheni, and the Rebbe said this maimer. Remember, it was Rabbi Leibel wasn't there. There was no Chazorah there. The nest was that Rabbi Shalom Yisrael Chadakov in middle. He had a tape always in 770 just in case, till he found out. So in the middle of the maimer, he came running with the tape. So the second half, a big part, is there on tape. But the first part wasn't, so I was standing there and I had to try to concentrate to remember to be able to chazer. So we sat down afterwards to chazer the maimer, and that's where Hanochi came from. But it was very, very interesting thing, the way the Rebbe came and sat down there just suddenly and said the maimer.